Welcome to the Nurtured Soul. This is Matthew again, and we are excited today to talk about another topic that really I believe will be a great help to you. Before we get to that, let me just remind you that our goal here is to help show you how to nurture and care for your soul by a real relationship with God and by controlling your emotions and your thoughts. And that's a high order, isn't it? In a world where there's so much pressure being placed externally. But I want to remind you that with all the things being pushed into your life and all the chaos on the outside, internally in your soul, you can have order and peace, and you can have health, a healthy soul internally. So that's our goal. That's what we're trying to help you with. That's why we do these videos. So today I want to talk about a topic that probably is very close to home for many of us, and some of us have probably asked ourselves this very question, but your soul has no doubt dealt with this in the past, or at least it's on your radar. So here's the question we want to answer. Will God ever give us more than we can handle? Will God ever allow more into our lives than we're able to process or we can handle or get through, and it's just too much for us? Maybe you're thinking, yep, I can answer that question. Yes, with all that's been going on with this coronavirus and jobs and economy and riots and all of the protests and all the things going on in the world, yes, I can answer that question. It is more than I can bear. But let me first maybe clarify, will God give us what more than we can bear? And I want to just clarify some things, because there are a few different things to think about. Will God allow us to have more trouble or trials or suffering than we can handle? Or will God allow us to have more temptations than we can bear, and we just give in and are overcome by them? Well, first let me talk about temptations, because there's a verse in the Bible in Corinthians where people used to all the time say that God will not give us more than we can handle. But it's dealing specifically with temptations. And First John and James talks about this, but here's the deal. God very clearly says that temptation does not come from him. Temptation is when I have something brought by my way, something to get my attention, to take my focus off of God and to cause me to stumble or to do wrong or to fall. It's something that is a violation of God's law, or something that God would not want me to do, and it's brought in front of me with the purpose of getting me to do it so that it will hurt me. That's a temptation. And I want to tell you this, the Bible is clear about this. God does not tempt anyone. Never would God bring a sin into your life or try to tempt you to do wrong to see if you will fall or you will fail or do wrong. That is not the character of God. So if you're being tempted to do wrong, if you have things being brought into your life that are clearly a violation of Scripture, a sin issue, and you're being tempted with that, that is not God. That might be your own flesh. That might be Satan, the devil, bringing in temptation. But that's not God that's doing that. Never would God want you to sin or want you to do wrong and be destroyed. That is not the heart of God. So we're not talking about that. God will, by the way, there will never be a temptation that will come your way that you have to give into, that you have to commit that sin. You're enslaved to it and you just can't help yourself. No, matter of fact, that verse in Corinthians says that God has given us a way of escape. There is no temptation that is greater than the strength and power we have in God, not ourselves, because we will give into it. We will fail. We will fall. but God has given us a way of escape in Jesus Christ. So that's temptation. Now, let's get to the trouble in the world. Jesus said there will be trouble in this world, but he has overcome it. There are going to be problems. Also, there's going to be hardships and suffering that we go through in this world. We didn't ask for it. It's not our fault. We didn't do anything to bring it in our life. And so we need to be careful to understand that many of these hardships, this suffering we're going through is not because God is angry at us, not because we've done anything wrong, but because we live in a very fallen, sinful world. There's trouble all around us, and bad things happen. And these things, we're not exempt from them just because we try to do good or because we love the Lord. So will God allow hardships and sufferings, not temptations, but sufferings that are more than we can bear? Will God allow somebody to mistreat us or hurt us, or a broken relationship, or a lost job, or a physical issue that, quite frankly, at the end of the day, it's more than we can physically bear? And the answer to that question is yes. Absolutely. In Corinthians, the Apostle Paul said there was a point where he was so overcome that it was to the point where it was the suffering and hardship was so bad that he literally thought he would die. And it was beyond his own strength and ability. He also said in Corinthians that he had an affliction, what he called something that bothered him so much, a thorn in the flesh, that 3 times he asked God to take it away. Please remove it. Lord, I just need this gone. I could serve you better, and I would have more joy, and I would have strength if you just take this away. Don't you love me? And God very clearly says that it's not an issue of love. God does love us and will always love us. So are there things in your life right now that you're going through? Maybe you're in the middle of a valley and you're struggling, and you look at your life and say, I didn't ask for this, I didn't want this, I wasn't prepared for this. But it may be a relationship issue, it may be something with your children or your spouse, it may be something with a job, losing a job, or difficulties, or it could be any number of things. It could be a physical health issue, and you say, I can't deal with this pain. This is more than I can bear. I'm at my wit's end. I feel like I'm going to die. And your soul is crying out. And your soul is hurting. And I want to tell you, if you neglect that and just say, well, there's nothing I can do about it, your soul is wounded, it is hurt, it is going to affect your entire life. And I want to help you with this. So if God is so good and God is so loving, why would he allow trouble and suffering or hurt in my life that is more than I can handle? I just can't bear it. And God knows what I'm able to do. God knows what I'm able to get through. And he knows that I can't get through this. Well, there are 2 answers for this that I want to help you with, okay? Your soul was made and given to you by God for you to have a special connection with God and for you to understand your need for God, your dependence on God. Number 1, why would God allow me to go through more than I can absolutely handle? The answer to that is the only way that I will truly depend on God, fully rely on God, and look to God for all of my help and all of my strength and my existence is when I am forced to. When there is something in my life that I can't fix, that I can't get through, that I'm not the answer, I am forced to look elsewhere. And when I'm not the answer and nobody else is the answer, and it's bigger than all of us, I am really pressured and forced to look up and say, Lord, nobody else can do it. I can't. I need your help. That is the place that God wants every one of us to be at. Now listen to me. That is the place that your soul craves. Your soul is craving to be at a place where you are willingly, fully dependent upon God. We do not operate in that place when we're handling things, when things are going well and we're fixing things. And it might be your nature to try to jump in and handle things and fix things and make things work. Maybe you're a fixer, but your soul realizes that there are things that you cannot fix and you need God. And the rest of you needs to acknowledge that and admit that. When these things happen in our lives, in the world, when there's a virus that we can't control and we're trying to do all we can, and when there's things happening in your life and you're like, I can't do it, then God is saying, I'm here, look to me, look to me. So dependence on God, now that seems so trite and simple. I get it, you've heard it your whole life, but it is true that God is trying to get you to look to him, depend on him. Second of all, when you and I are overwhelmed and we have no strength left and it's more than we can bear, this is when we're in a place to fully receive the grace of God. The grace of God is God's goodness given to us freely that we don't deserve, but it is a gift that needs to be received. The help of God, the grace of God is there, it's available, but many times we don't receive that gift because we don't think we really need it, or we're not at a place where we're willing to accept it coming from God and understand what that means. So the grace of God. Jesus told Paul this. He said, Paul, my grace is sufficient. What God is saying is Paul, I am enough and I will get you through. But God said, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. It's when you are weak that God comes in and picks you up and you experience his strength. Now, it's when we are hurting, it's when we are overwhelmed and we have more than we can handle that we cling to God, and God comes in and comforts us and heals us and helps us through his good grace. And we're only in a position to receive that when we are overwhelmed. David said it this way. The cry of his heart was, Lord, when I am overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Here's what the trouble and the suffering will do in your life. It will show you that you are not capable. You are not enough. You are brought low so that you can be led to the rock, Jesus Christ, that is higher than yourself. When you're at a place where you can look up to Jesus, who is higher and better and stronger and more wonderful than you and I are, then you are helped and brought to the place where God says, and let me show you what you were missing. Let me show you what I have for you. This is what your soul longs for. And so God then, what he does is he will allow loneliness. He will allow struggle. He will allow disappointment and some of these things in our lives to turn us to him, to cause us to depend on him and then his grace so that I can receive that. The people that have hurt the most tend to be, if they receive and if their attitude is right, they tend to be the most gracious, humble, happy people on this planet, because in that darkness and in that hurt, the light came to them the light of Christ and help them in a way that they could not be helped if they were not in that hurting place. So I want to encourage you, if you're hurting today, it's not because God doesn't love you. It's because he does love you. And I know that's hard to understand, and I know it's cheap talk just to say it, but I'm living it. I have experienced it, and I am still experiencing it even today. I am speaking to you from experience, and it is my goal to help you. If you're in a valley and you're hurting, don't get resentful, don't get bitter, don't turn away from God. Turn to God. Let him father you. Let him help you. Depend on him. Hold your hands out and say, hold me, help me. The God of all comfort is there, and he will help you. But you need to depend on him and receive his grace today. It is more than enough. It is more than sufficient. Nurture your soul today. Take a moment to pause. Don't go to other people right now. Don't look to everyone else, but simply look up to God and say, I'm in trouble. And this is more than I can bear, but it's not more than you can bear. God said with him, nothing is impossible. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. His grace is sufficient. If you need someone to help you with this, if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. You can make a comment on here. You can email me. I'd be glad to help you. But I know there are hurting people that are wondering, why is all this happening? And I'm afraid that it is more than I can bear. Do not be afraid. David said, I would have fainted unless I believed the Lord and looked to him in the land of the living. That's what I'm trying to help you to do today. We care about you. We're praying for you. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.